Good morning, everyone. This is Connie Myers, and I have another one of my interviews this morning with my Kick Butt Leadership interview series. I am very thrilled to introduce to you a gentleman by the name of Fabian Schwartz. He's the CEO of Scrum Network, and his new book, Your Scrum Playbook, it's poker, not chess, is going to be released very shortly. Fabi, can I ask you to move your computer down a little bit? Your mouth is being covered up by the label. There you go. There we go. Now we can see your face. Welcome,
All
Fabi.
right.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh yeah, nice for having me. Thanks for being on the show, Connie.
Uh, when I was looking at your bio, so I need to pull your bio up because I cannot remember all of this. So I'm going to pull it up right now, and bear with me because I'm going to have to read it. You have over 20 years in the tech sector, and you've had many roles in the IT and program manager, and as you're now a Scrum trainer, and you've reached over 30,000 people. The first thing I want to ask you is, first of all, you talk about agile methodology. For us novices out there, what is agile methodology?
Okay. So basically, when we talk about agile, we're referring to kind of a mindset where we are very good in adapting to change. So in this now very fast pacing business environment, it is important that you can change your direction quickly, fast, and without a lot of problems. So that's what we're referring to when we talk about the agile mindset.
Well, I talk a lot about mindset, and I think you have to be very flexible in this current scene of things, because if things change and move very quickly, agile methodology in some fashion so that people can have a better understanding.
Could you repeat that, please? There was a
Oh,
little
sure.
cut.
I said, can you give us an example of a company, or in your company, how you use in agile methodologies in your systems or management in your company?
Okay, well, a couple of examples. So we could maybe use a very, very famous example, this Blockbuster versus Netflix. So while Blockbuster was just going straight down the path, was not able to change, even they were seeing the problems, but they weren't able to change. Netflix were able to adapt to the change really fast, and the result is now there's no more Blockbuster, and Netflix is number one. And we try to implement that and do that in the same way. So the idea is you have agility on two levels. So one on an operational level, which means you can adjust really fast to what's happening in your operations, but also on a strategic level, if you see a business opportunity that is totally different to what you are doing right now, but it might be the future, that you are able to move the direction. So we use usually Scrum as a framework, as a way of working to implement this mindset.
I see. So, how long has Scrum been around, and how did I mean? Just tell me a little bit of the background of how you got involved, or is it your idea uh, with Scrum?
With Scrum, well, that's a good question. It depends a little bit on what you take as a reference point, right? So the word Scrum actually comes from a rugby play formation. But the first time I believe it was used in the context of business was in a Harvard Business Review article in '86, and as a way of working, it was published on a presented in a conference in '95. But if you say like the first real Scrum guide, so the first real guide that tells you how Scrum works, was published in 2010, so it's still fairly new. How do I got into Scrum? It's a good question. It took me a while. I was very resistant. So I worked very long in project management, traditional, what we call now traditional project management or waterfall project management. I even was the head of a PMO of a project management office. I have all these traditional certifications, PMP, etc. And in 2007, there were some entrepreneurs asking me to help them with their small startup, and they offered me to pay me in shares if they're successful. So I started working with them, but the way I knew, or the way I was used to, let's say, how projects work, which means basically writing documents forever until you start really doing something. So we were working on documents for around a year, and then everyone got angry at me because we haven't produced anything real yet. And we had a little discussion, and someone had heard at the university about Scrum. So they said, well, why don't we just do Scrum? And I said, well, do what you want. and and it turned out to be successful. But I have to say, like, the story is way longer, but to cut it short, I rejected it at first, and it took me several more projects to finally accept that Scrum produces really good results.
Wow. So if I am a entrepreneur, I have most of my audience are small companies, a lot of realtors that have real estate firms and that sort of thing. What would be the benefit of having, like, I have a company, my Kick Butt Leadership. What would be the benefit of me using Scrum, and how could I implement it into my daily needs as far as management goes?
Okay, so in that situation, for example, Scrum is really good, really effective. While, like, usually if you have a small startup, well, you can burn through money really fast, and it's not a really good idea. And there are lots of statistics out there that companies, like more than 95% of the companies, have changed their strategy. So basically means when you start, that's not the strategy you will end up with. But you can spend all your money on one strategy. So what Scrum does is, in iterations, it helps you cheap and fast to test your hypothesis and adjust the way, like to pivot to the point where you are successful. And Scrum does that really fast. And how can you implement that? That's not very difficult. So you probably want to have a short training to understand the basics of Scrum. And the next day you can already start. Might not be perfect, but it's fast.
I'm just thinking about this new project that I'm coming out with, that maybe I need to use Scrum.
I should try it.
For sure. Well, tell us about your book. I love the title, Your Scrum Playback. It's poker, not chess. And so explain it's poker, not chess to me.
Well, okay. So during my MBA, I was taught business planning and long-term planning, etc. And sorry. And we learned that business works like chess. So a certain way you analyze all the players on the field, all the pieces. You build different scenarios. You select the best scenario, and then you just go down that path. But I believe business is not like chess, because you can't see all the pieces. It's more like poker, where some stuff is hidden. You don't really know what happened. Like, you know some things that will happen or might happen, but there's still lots of uncertainty involved. And people say there's uncertainty in chess. Not really. Like, if you would have the brain power, you could calculate every single move in advance, which you can't in poker in that sense. You can only predict what's going to happen based on probability. So I believe business is more like poker than chess. That's where the title comes from.
I love it. So is this a book that if I wanted to learn about Scrum and I wanted to see if it would be applicable to my business, is this a good book for me to start with?
I believe so. So let me tell you what's the idea behind this book. There's one thing that's called the official Scrum Guide, the rules of the game, let's say. So that tells you what you need when you start with Scrum. It's very short, 16 pages. But the thing is, as it says, it's a rule book. So it's like you learn chess. You need to learn the rules. But in order to win in chess or in poker or whatever, the rules alone are not enough. You need strategies. You need, like, what I call the plays. So that's where the playbook comes from. It tells you how to do that. Not only what to do, it tells you how to do that. So it's, I believe, a very good first step to start with Scrum.
Awesome. Well, I'm certainly going to be ordering the book for sure. So, because I do have a project I think it might come in very handy for. So you are in Colombia. I forgot to ask you the question I ask everybody. I was so excited to find out more about Agile and Scrum. Were you a leader as a child?
I don't think so. Not
No,
really. No.
no. Did you always were you always interested in computers and software and development and that kind of thing, or was that something that just came to be?
I think that started pretty early. I think that started very early. Interest in computer. I don't remember when exactly, but I would say 10, 11, 12. I already started playing around with
Oh
computers.
wow! So you're what we here in this country would call a geek.
Probably, yeah. Not anymore. I lost probably half my abilities or more, but at that time I was.
well, well, when so your book is coming out. It's going to be released when? You said you can pre-order it now.
Oh yeah, you can pre-order it right now. It ships from the 15th of March on. You can look it up at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and every major distributor.
So just 10 days away for your release. Are you excited?
Oh yeah, really excited. Like we already see pre-sales coming in, so it looks good. Let's see how the first week is going.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, is this your first book?
Oh yeah, that's my first book. I actually didn't want to write it, but at the end I did.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be well worthwhile for anybody that wants to learn about Scrum. I could tell you when I was reading on your website and looking into what Scrum was all about, I can tell you that I need your book because I was understanding about every third word.
Oh yeah, we actually we try to write the book in everyday's language, so to not overly use jargon. Let's say like we tried our best. So I tried my best to to make it
Is
readable.
Scrum an acronym?
Not it's a word that comes from rugby. It's a play formation, so it's a
Ah,
certain position. Let's say in the game of rugby. They just
awesome.
copied it basically.
I love it. I love it. Well, I really look forward. We'll post the link to the book on the Facebook link, and I really appreciate you joining me all the way from Colombia and opening my eyes to something that I didn't know anything about, and certainly am interested in now.
Iconic. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me on your show.
All right, all right. Well, if you're interested in his new book, it's again it's called Scrum Playbook. It's poker, not chess. And I actually prefer poker over chess. So I definitely want to check it out. Anyway, so thank you for joining me. And we'll have another great interview coming up very soon on my Kick Butt Leadership Interview Series. Thanks again, Fabian. And for all of you, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye now.
Thanks to you.